Gundam.tk presents Real Grade Gundam Mk-II. What's up again, everybody? It's Robert 184, 2Rs2B's Gundam Reviews.net, and as you can see from all these empty plates, that means that the Real Grade 1/144, the Gundam Mk-II, is all put together, so let's take a look at the inner frame and some of the cooler parts. And thanks to the manual making it easy, it's a lot of fun to put together this movable frame before actually putting all the parts all around, and you can guess that this is going to be using on most of the advanced joint B plate. I've actually still got, these are just the regular manipulators that are in the arms when you put them on, but you can do the fancy 3-finger trigger finger splits there. But the reason why this one is so filled out compared to something like the RX-178 I'd have to go back and actually see how filled out it could be before you put on the white stuff around it, is because the E1 and the E2 plates are going to use a substantial amount of these. To plug these in, you can see that there's going to be some symmetrical parts and some unique ones there in the chest. Also, there are going to be a few things from the other ones. I'm talking about the hand protectors there, and from the A plate you're going to put on those green parts which are looking very sharp, and the very cool all-round cockpit, which reminds me of an arcade game that I haven't played in far too long. And that's probably a whole nother story. Pricey, fun, but yeah, pricey. Overall, it's looking really cool with the front part of the feet being able to move up and down here, and you've also got this heel part which just sort of bends up. It's the piping here that's going to be really bring to mind the Mk-II. It's a little tricky to get those in there, and they're not really going to move all that much, but they still look cool for having them as opposed to not, that's for sure. In the back, this is great that you can take this piping. What you do is you put the wire, the lead inside there, and then you're just going to cut these to 17 millimeters and 10 centimeters. These ones are a little bit tricky, and you'll notice that they tend to fall out here on the side. Hopefully that's going to be remedied once you get some white armor around it. But you can see with these knee ones here, if you bend them, that everything is still going to look really cool. And you can just see everything moving in every direction. Truly a shame almost that this is going to get covered up with the rest of the inner frame. A pretty simple looking waist there, and then you're going to have the upper body where that whole round cockpit is going to be pretty much buried. You're just going to see hints of red there from the front and the sides, which is of course as it should be. It just would be cool to see even more of it, but you don't have to put the chest section on. If you just use the inner frame, then you could see a whole lot more of that round red ball there. For the shoulders, these are part of the E plate, and you can see that the arms are going to be the skinniest part of the body compared to everything else that's going to get nicely armored up and filled out. And I suppose that there's a part that you could do for the head and add it to this to make it look even more complete if you were to display it separately. And there's a lot of old master grades that would kill to be able to get twisted into this kind of position. But then again, why would you really want to, other than to see just how many ways that you can move this and all the moving parts in the limbs as you do it. Here's a shot of the main body parts, and this is looking suitably real grade-ish. And the backpack, shield, bazooka, beam rifle, head Vulcans, beam sabers there, you're going to be getting 2 additional sets of manipulators there, a small Camille, a custom attachment point, and some extra ammo rounds. I don't think there were any parts that were uninteresting to put together, and starting with the legs, you can see that if you bend them up here, that you're going to be getting a nice knee bend there, and the thigh will split when you go all the way. A little bit of gold decals there on the inside, and I put some down on the bottom. Good color differentiation here with the 2 shades of gray to go along with the yellow. On the back, it's a little bit disappointing that all that effort was there to put in the piping, and you're not going to see it. But over here, you've even got gray there in the ankle armor. And as for the feet, this is going to bend down, and that's going to reveal some very cool looking pistons on the inside there. Unfortunately, these toe parts, they don't seem to want to do much besides just wiggle a bit. For the waist section, let's start with this bazooka attachment point where you can just bend that down and then you can seal it up and it's going to look good. Little details like those gray parts showing through from the inner frame there, the first thing the pros add to a high grade. Already included, although on the side skirts it's looking a little bit plain. But 2 colors there, and I'm impressed with what they did with this front skirt where it's going to be primarily the lighter color of gray there. And then you're just going to have a little bit of dark ones to cap it off with a nice blue piece. You may be able to see inside the cockpit there, and that's just going to seal up nicely with the blue and the red folding up. You've got some slits here cut into the yellow parts automatically, so you don't have to line those up. These green parts that are clear are going to stand out quite a bit whether you're looking at them from the side or the front, but I think that's in a good way. Good gray details here, like the fact that you've got these parts that are going to move on top of the shoulders, which is going to look cool if you decide to bring them up. And the shoulders are going to be on a round mechanism that's going to fit in there, so you can certainly bring those very far forward, and a pretty simple backpack attachment point. Simple yet cool looking shoulders with the gray part that's going to move ever so slightly there, and nice light yellow details there, some lining opportunities, and the 2 tones of gray. Here you can see the shoulder attachment point, so this is going to move up and down, and it's going to rotate around here. Two nice blue parts there, and no problem at all swinging this cover part around. It's still going to go nicely. And it's the elbow bend that's very impressive here. As you start to go up here, and then you can go up here, you can see that everything's going to move. This elbow part is going to stay in place nicely. And it's highlighted, unlike the old one, RX-178 where they had some ugly seals that were on sort of a round sort of a thing. You could just imagine that those are going to come off in about 3 seconds. Whereas this one is on a flatter surface, so it looks like it's going to stay in place. My only real complaint would be is that you've got these edges which are looking like they're a little bit too raised, but then again that's going to look cool because you've got the ability to move the wrist, 00 style, and remember you've got multiple manipulators to choose from. The beam rifle looks a little bit small here, but you've still got good playability with the fact that you've got that part moving up and down, so you can get 2 hands on it. Extra ammo packs are going to be in the shield, and you've got this scope that seems to want to fall down, but a nice looking seal in there. For the shield, I do something that I hardly ever do, and that's put decals on there. I put 2 of the clear ones on, and you can see that you are still going to see a lot of that film all around it, and I didn't put it on that straight necessarily, but anyway, it just sort of adds to it, I suppose. Anyway, the gold stickers are very easy to put on and really hard to screw those up since they are attached to a nice place. You can't really see through the red part there, although it does seem to be cut out, and it does have this kind of playability on the inside that you're able to slide this up and down very nicely. You've got the extra ammo packs that if you removed you'd be able to see. This part is going to rotate around and attach onto the elbow nicely, and additional weapons at the bottom. But I'm a big fan of multicolored bazookas, whether it's on the RX-178 or on the Mk-II, and first of all, on the back you're going to have the rockets that are going to detach there. Some cool little vents back there. These are actually differentiated, like when you put them in, they're going to look like separate rockets. 2 different parts here for the light gray there, and you're going to have this part here for the trigger that's going to move up and down, and a pretty hollow barrel. And the backpack is going to have a lot of nice looking details built into it, starting with the thrusters that move independently, but they also seem to want to fall off. But more impressive here is the beam sabers, where you're going to have this mesh piping. It was covered up mostly on the knees, or on the back of the shins. You can still see it on the knees a little bit, but these ones are going to be very noticeable from the front and back, I'm hoping. And they seem to stay in place no matter how much you wiggle it around. And you've got the beam sabers, unlike the RX-178 where once he took these out, they just seem to leave a gap on his shoulder. All of a sudden these ones, they're still going to leave something substantial behind, and they're going to have a nice attachment point, although it seems to want to run away before you put the peg in and lock it into place. You already saw the main solid fist manipulators, but here you're going to have the shooting fingers there with the trigger finger out, and you've got the 3-finger trigger finger split. Amazing that some master grades don't have that nowadays, and you can get it on real grade. Remember though, don't lose these or you have to order a whole new B plate. And even though I'm a big fan of almost every part of this kit, I've got to say that the head, it's not that it's unspectacular, because I think they did exactly what they were supposed to do and just make it look classic and cool. And if you go take a look at that box art, I mean, that headshot is just fantastic. And this is going to look like it, but they didn't really stylize it too much. It's very old school, but nice details when you're putting it together. Starting with the face mask, you've actually got separate gray there for the eyes, whereas most Gundams are going to have red. He's got 2 shades of gray there. You are going to have to put in some lining though, because they didn't go as far as give you 2 parts for the faceplate. But you do have the goatee, the jewel, the yellow part there. The green part for the light piping should work, I suppose, but I decided to go with the seals over the eyes. And you've got these parts on the side where you'd normally be lining that up on an old school Gundam, but here it's all done for you in nice plastic by just covering up a gray inner frame part. And if it is looking too simple, why not add on these head Vulcans where you've got a nice green seal, some differentiation there between the left and the right, and a skinny antenna that looks very, very breakable, but nonetheless it's really going to help them fill out and look even cooler and more dangerous if you get up close. So lots of fun right from the beginning of this kit, from the unboxing to actually putting it together and seeing the engineering. The 2 colors are really going to help make this old school Gundam look even cooler, and that classic old head. The design is really growing on me, and I put on a few of the decals, but those of you that want to go and utilize this whole sheet, more power to you. I'm sure it's going to look even better. Well, anyway, everybody, stay tuned to check out the mobile suit mode, where it's going to be all put together and you can see whether this is worth something that you want to add to your shelf. And why don't you let me know what you think of the parts with a comment down below. Always love to hear from you. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Check it out. It's Camille and Amaro.